This video is also being covered with this Chapter 6, Physical Design this week. I put together just a little document here, just a text file, with some primary key guidelines. A lot of students have questions about, well, what should be my primary key for a table, or how do I come up with a primary key? So I put together just some things to think about when you're picking a primary key for a table. It's, as you'll see, relatively simple. I downloaded this file and I opened it up in Notepad so I could make the font bigger. So here it is. Of course, each table in your database has to have a primary key. And it's a field that uniquely identifies each record, of course. That's what our definition has always been. So that's the first standard here that I wrote down. The field that you choose must have a unique value. That means if you know a single value of this primary key field, then you'll be able to determine a single value for all the other fields in the table. Okay, so it has to be unique in each row of the table. Secondly, the field cannot be null. The primary key has to have a value. You can't really add a record to a table without having a value in the primary key field. You saw in Access, a lot of times they pick auto number field for the primary key, and then the system just automatically puts a sequential number starting at 1 usually, and just keeps going up from there from every record that you have. You really want to pick a field that does not change its value much, if ever. Usually when you get a primary key value for a record, you want that value to stay the same. Okay? The primary key field should not have any intelligence, meaning it shouldn't have really any meaning. Like a phone number, you might think that would be a good primary key for, say, a person or a customer. And it could work, but it does have intelligence. It is their phone number. Social Security, years ago, say 20, 30 years ago, was a common field that people chose to be a primary key for like customers or employees and such. But that leads into this 5th guideline. You want to make sure that you're not breaching any personal information or security information. And Social Security, of course, in the last 15 years especially, has become something that's been stolen, or people use it to get money or credit. So that's a field that should never be used as a primary key. What usually happens here is what I'm saying in this paragraph here. Usually you just create a surrogate key, meaning you just simply create a field to become the primary key. Usually because no natural fields, meaning fields that just exist naturally in the business world or in the world in general, doesn't really fit all those rules above. So you just simply create this surrogate primary key. That's why you see tables, here, put it right here, why you see tables that have a primary key that's the same name as the table or entity. And they just put the word number or ID behind it. For instance, an employee table, usually the primary key is employee number or employee ID. Primary key for a parts table is part ID or part number. So that's really how most of the time a primary key is set. What about the data type for a primary key? That's what this note is referring to down here. A lot of systems have that auto number feature. You can use that, but not always. Companies a lot of times don't like to use that. They don't want a sequential number, say, for their employee numbers or whatever. So they'll make one up. But even though it could be all numeric data, it's usually some kind of text field or character or string field is the data type, because even though you might say employee number or part number, you're not really doing any arithmetic or any mathematical calculations on that field. Same with a telephone number or Social Security number. Those data types are not numeric. They're usually just text or character fields of the appropriate length. You really only want to call a field a data type of numeric if you are going to do some kind of arithmetic, calculations on that data, on that field. The bottom of this little file, I asked our IT people at Madison College how they come up with student IDs. I was just curious. Of course, obviously that's the primary key of the student table in our database at school. I was just curious. So you can read through some of these questions. It's somewhat interesting. Okay, that's the end of this video.